Hello everyone, welcome back to the training on Microsoft Azure AZ900. Alright, so this is the last section of the course, and we are going to be talking about what is known as Service Level Agreement within Azure or SLA. Follow this URL, which you can see on the screen, and it'll take you to the Service Level Agreement page of Microsoft Azure. All right. Service level agreement in business or in general is basically the service provider making certain commitments to the service consumer. And maybe there are either financial or other penalties associated with not meeting those commitments. When it comes to Microsoft Azure, for almost all of the Azure services, Microsoft does make you some promises in the form of service level agreements. And if they don't perform those promises, then you are entitled to a partial refund. So you can find that under the Microsoft azure.microsoft.com site support legal SLA. And I often find it's good to use your search engine and search for the specific SLA which you are interested in as well. Let's say, for example, if I'm interested in knowing about the SLA of virtual machine, then I can visit Azure Virtual Machine SLA page directly. If you do go to this website, you will be able to find the various products that Microsoft offers, and you will find out what the particular promise is that they are making and what the consequences are if they don't keep that promise. So here's an example of a service level agreement for Azure Virtual Machine. You can see that it was updated in the middle of 2020. Now, there are 5 separate promises being made as summarized here at the top. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but it's just good to understand that there's a part of it where you can have an obligation. So you're going to create 2 or more virtual machines across 2 or more availability zones in the same regions. That's your obligation. And then Microsoft's obligation is they will guarantee virtual machine connectivity to the internet of at least one instance for 99.9% of the time. There are obviously 4 other promises for availability set and 3 promises for a single virtual machine. And you can see there's slight difference in the percentage being promised from 99.9 to 99.95 and 95, right? Now that's the promise. What happens if they don't meet their promise? Okay, if you go under SLA details, you can see that they are promising a service credit for this particular one. The 2 or more availability zone of 10%, 25% or 100% refund on a cost of that services. So if they don't meet this guarantee, then you can apply for a refund. There are obviously different uptime guarantees depending on the availability set, or for single virtual machine has different guarantees and different refunds. Now each service is going to be slightly different. Okay, so if that's the virtual machine, it's pretty straightforward. If we choose something like this, let's say load balancer, you will see that the promise is quite straightforward as well, right? The standard load balancer has a 99.9% SLA, the basic, which is free one, doesn't have any SLA associated with that. So every service has a different promise, obligation on your part, a promise on Microsoft's part, and refund level if they don't meet their promise. So that is the basic of SLA in Azure. Now, it is said a couple of times that preview features themselves are not generally tested on certification exams with some expectations, but the reason is because they can change at any time. Microsoft can modify a previous feature or even just remove it. They decide that thing that they, they were testing wasn't worth it, right? They don't actually recommend that you use a preview feature in the production use. So they are going to release a preview feature and they want you to play with it, develop with it, give them feedback, and and then they'll go back and improve on it. But if you start putting it into your production environment, bad consequences can happen. So, for instance, there's no SLA and it could obviously change, right? They could just break the API or they can just decide to not make the feature go live and have seen that happen, right? There are two types of preview features. One is called a public preview and one is called private preview. Now, typically we see public previews, but from time to time, there is a private preview as well. So, public preview is just the feature that is marked as preview, and you can just use it, right? So, we saw with Azure Blueprint feature earlier in this course, it was marked as preview, but we could still just go in and create a blueprint. There was no application process to do that, right? The private preview process sometimes you will see it being a form to fill out. They are looking for people who are operating in a certain area, and so they want to let those people first. So it might be like an AI feature, and they want to work with people who are in the AI space. So they ask you to fill out a form and then they grant you access and then they can monitor your access or you can fill out a survey or something like that. So we can see here they announce these things on the blog. There's a couple of places where they announce them, but you can see a SAAS announcing a private preview of this particular service, right? And I've taken a screenshot of Azure VM Builder, which is a private preview. And so it's definitely something available to you, but you do have to fill out an application and then they'll either preview or not. Now, besides the two preview option, the most common is called general availability or GA. So obviously the majority of Azure features are in GA, that is general availability. And then when something does get approved and proceeds from the previous state, they get into GA, that is general availability. And you can see an announcement like this saying that this feature is now in general availability, right? So that is it in this lecture. I hope you liked it and enjoy learning with me. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.